Chewie, is that you? Chewie!
The Call of the Wild stars Harrison Ford, and it's about one continuous journey of a dog named Buck, who has had some troubles and eventually he crosses paths with Harrison Ford, who is wrestling with troubled pasts of his own. He and Buck cross paths and go on a journey of their own. Fine, but not great. My biggest gripe about this movie is that it fails to justify its own existence. It tells a competent story that was written by Jack London back in 1903. However, Harrison Ford is sadly not the star of this film. It's Buck, a fully CGI rendered dog that we follow through the entire film. And not to dog on the people who worked hard on this movie, but I found most of the CGI to be very undercooked, and it broke the immersion for me several times. There are scenes where people are petting Buck, and it looked very unconvincing. There are a lot of scenes that look like actors are standing in front of green screens, which made me constantly wonder why this movie didn't simply go fully animated, or use actual animals. The dogs in this movie have human facial expressions, but don't actually talk. I hate using this term, but the uncanny valley really does apply here. Also, the dogs seem to understand full English sentences, so that seems weird. At least Lassie was played by real dogs. There are scenes that happen later where I can kind of see why they decided to go full CG, but perhaps had they mixed real dogs and just did CG in spots, it may have looked more convincing. Harrison Ford narrates the entire film, but is sadly not in the film as much as I would have liked him to be. I wonder if he has a clause in his contract that says he can only be in half of a movie now. Or is he just too expensive to have an entire movie? They did this with Star Wars The Force Awakens, and they did it again with Blade Runner 2049. I get it, he's old, but maybe he should retire? Gee, can't wait for Indiana Jones 5 now, because that's still happening, and supposedly it's coming out in 2022, so he'll be reduced to a 5-minute cameo in his own movie. Yay!
That belongs in a museum! So do you!
Also, he seems grossly miscast for this role. When I was a kid, I kind of looked up to characters that Harrison Ford portrayed. Han Solo and Indiana Jones. He was very sarcastic, witty, outgoing, and made his own rules. Kind of like the way my parents looked up to John Wayne or Clint Eastwood. While I applaud Harrison Ford for taking on the role of a grizzled old broken man wrestling with his own demons, I didn't buy him in the role at all. In fact, some of the scenes with Harrison Ford and the dog seemed embarrassingly silly to me, to the point where I wanted to laugh. He doesn't exactly command the screen, which is really bizarre when you're playing co-star to a CG dog that has no speaking lines. Most of the time, Harrison just looks like he's sad or lost, but somehow he can backpack through the Yukon and canoe through the rapids. I just could not buy it. I feel like this role would have been better if played by somebody like Sam Elliott.
Oh, look at me. I'm rambling again. Well, I hope you folks enjoyed yourselves. Get you later on down the trail.
And also been completely animated, but whatever. This film also seems entirely too long for the story it's telling. I was getting really bored with the second act, which feels artificially stretched for the sake of runtime. We spend entirely too much time with characters that are not really all that super important to the main plot. It almost felt like they just wanted to do more stuff with CG dogs. The third act of the film was the better part, and I wish the movie would have focused on that more because it felt rushed, like Harrison Ford had to hurry up and get to the golf course or something. Why did the movie make us wait so long to have Harrison Ford team up with Buck? It makes no sense to me. Some heavy editing would have helped the pace much better, I feel. I don't hate this movie, but I didn't love it, and I will probably never watch it again. It's fine as a family movie for young kids, but it didn't really hit me in the feels because the CGI was super distracting, and it might be a bit boring for younger audiences. It was a bit boring to me for sure. I think the director did an okay job at telling a pretty good story, even if he didn't write it. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5 cheese curds. Velveeta. It's fine if you're bored, or don't want to take your kids to see the blatant homophobia and racism of Sonic the Hedgehog, or take them to see Harley Quinn snort coke and kung fu the shit out of dudes that are twice her size. It didn't insult me, but it's very forgettable in the grand scheme of Harrison Ford vehicles.
Great kid! Don't get cocky!